All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're staging a digital showdown. We're going to pit two different kinds of AI against each other to figure out, once and for all, which one is better at catching those incredibly annoying and dangerous phishing scams.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You get that text about a package you don't remember ordering or an urgent email from your bank. You hover your mouse over that link, and for a split second, your brain just goes into overdrive, screaming, "Is this legit, or am I about to hand my password over to some scammer?" It's a classic modern-day dilemma.
And yeah, that's phishing in a nutshell. It's this sneaky attack where scammers build these fake websites that look exactly like the real deal. Facebook, Amazon, your bank, you name it. They're designed from the ground up to fool you into handing over your most sensitive info. They're just digital traps, plain and simple. But what if we could fight fire with fire? Or, fight scams with something way smarter? This is where it gets really interesting. We're looking at a full-on throwdown between two types of AI to see which one can claim the title of Ultimate Phishing Detection Champion.
So, in one corner, we've got the old guard, the traditional deep learning models. Think of them as highly trained specialists, built for this one specific job. And in the other corner, we have the new challenger that everybody's talking about, large language models, or LLMs. The super flexible brains behind things like GPT and Gemini.
And listen, this was no small-time sparring match. Researchers got their hands on a massive dataset of over 19,000 real, live, in-the-wild phishing websites and basically just let both types of AI have at it to see which one would come out on top. Okay, let's ring the bell for round one, pure detection. The challenge is simple. Can the AI actually tell the difference between a legit website and a scammer's trap?
And the results are in. The champion LLM, in this case GPT, came out swinging, correctly identifying a whopping 93.86% of all the phishing sites. That is an absolutely incredible success rate against thousands of different kinds of scams.
But what about the old guard? It's not pretty. The traditional deep learning models completely whiffed it. They had what's called a huge false negative rate, which means they missed over 64% of the phishing sites. They just let them slide, marking them as safe. That's a gigantic security flaw.
So no question about it, it is a clear knockout for the LLMs in round one. They are just so much better at sniffing out the bad guys. But hold on, the story doesn't end there. The research actually uncovered a really fascinating twist.
Okay, so here's the twist. It turns out each AI had a kind of hidden superpower. While the LLMs were the absolute champions at spotting the malicious sites, the old deep learning models were actually better at one specific thing, confirming that a safe website is genuinely safe. They had a nearly 98% success rate at that. LLMs, on the other hand, could sometimes get a little paranoid and flag a safe site as suspicious.
Okay, so we've established that LLMs are our best bet for actually catching scams. That led the researchers to the next logical question. How do we make them even better? How do we train them up to be the perfect, unbeatable phishing detectives?
Just think of it like a detective story, right? To solve a case, a detective needs good evidence. For an AI, that evidence is the data you feed it. But turns out, not all clues are created equal. So the researchers set out to find which piece of evidence was the real smoking gun.
So they put 4 key clues on trial. They tested the AI by giving it only a screenshot of the web page. Then they tried again with only the company's logo, then only the raw HTML code, and finally only the URL itself. Before I show you, which one do you think worked best?
Well, the results were just staggering. Giving the AI a screenshot of the page and nothing else led to a massive 94% accuracy in figuring out which brand is being faked. But feeding it just the URL, almost useless. The accuracy plummeted to around 30%. The visual information in that screenshot was by far the most powerful clue.
Yeah, and the researchers put it perfectly. They basically said that screenshots are the most direct, most informative piece of evidence. URLs and HTML code, on the other hand, can be noisy. Scammers can use weird link shorteners or confusing code on purpose to try and trick an AI, which totally tanks its performance.
But they didn't stop there. They also started messing with a really important LLM setting called temperature. The best way to think about this is like an AI's creativity dial. If you crank the temperature up, the AI gets more imaginative, more random, more creative. But if you turn it way down, it gets super literal and just sticks to the cold, hard facts.
So that begs a pretty interesting question, doesn't it? If you're building an AI to bust scammers, Do you want it to be creative and think outside the box? Or do you want it to be a total stickler for the rules, focusing only on what it can see?
The answer couldn't have been more clear. You turn that creativity dial all the way down to 0. The researchers found, without a doubt, that the lowest possible temperature setting gave them the highest accuracy every single time. For a job like this, you want your AI to be a fact-checking machine. No creativity allowed.
So, after all of this, pitting AIs against each other, testing all these different clues, tweaking all the settings, the researchers finally pieced it all together. They figured out the ultimate winning formula for a top-tier AI phishing detector.
And here it is. The recipe for success is actually pretty simple, but it's powerful. First, you start with the screenshot as your main piece of evidence. Second, you set that creativity dial, the temperature, to absolute 0. And third, you only use the HTML code as a backup just in case the screenshot isn't clear enough.
Okay, that's all super cool if you're an AI nerd, but why should you care? What does this high-tech battle actually mean for your day-to-day life on the internet?
It matters because this research is literally the blueprint for the next generation of security tools that are going to be built right into your web browser. Just imagine a future where your browser doesn't just check against some slow, outdated list of bad websites. Instead, it has a super smart AI detective inside that can look at any new website, analyze a screenshot in a fraction of a second, and warn you before you ever get a chance to type in your password.
So if you remember one thing from all this, make it this. Large language models are a total game changer for cybersecurity. When you arm them with the right clue, a simple screenshot, they become our most powerful new weapon in the ongoing war against phishing scams.
But this all leads to one last kind of unsettling thought. We're building these incredibly smart AIs to spot scams. What happens when the scammers just start using AI to create even more convincing scams? It's basically an AI arms race, and this research is just the latest move on a very complicated chessboard. Thanks for tuning in.